like, this is super cool to just see two people go for it. I mean, there are so many people that are watching right now that have had these dreams of, I want to help people, or I want to have this business, or I have this product, or this vision that I want to put out there. And a lot of people just never take that chance. They never do it. So now here you guys are doing it. I'm following along, as are hundreds, thousands of your friends. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brett Hensley from Revolution Real Estate Group. So a new series that we're starting is featuring local businesses in Northeast Wisconsin, that people that I know, friends of mine, and things that are just really interesting. So this came about from a sense of sitting here during this COVID stuff and just going, what can I do? Like, how can I help? And how can we as a real estate group and a team and just friends and a community come together to support other people? And I started to think about good friends of mine that have taken the risk, kind of like me, and been out there in the business world and said, hey, we're going to do this thing, and that have interesting and compelling stories and things that I think that might be really interesting to you. So today we're very, very lucky, because to kick it off is probably one of the most interesting stories that I've wanted to know about for a long time. And they're people that I've known for a very long time, Jason and Kayla Tokarczyk. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So they are the co-owners of together of Happy Trails CBD. Now, I'm sure if you haven't been under a rock for the last couple of years, you've seen between billboards and new stores opening, all the way from the Fox cities up to the Green Bay area, as far south as Chicago. This phenomenon of your company kind of, no pun intended, but blazing trails throughout this industry and this market. So first, if you can, give a little bit of a backstory about, like, I know you guys, but not everybody does. So give us a backstory about where you came from and what brought you up to the point of going, hey, this is something we should explore.
Well, I guess, my background is in media sales. I've sold radio for 10 years for WAPL and Razor. So you've obviously heard us on the Woodward Communications store, the radio stations. So I have a sales background.
My background's in marketing. And of course, the two worlds, sales and marketing, they collide quite often. So when this opportunity of Happy Trails came about, it really made sense for Jason to lead the sales side of things and for me to lead the marketing side of things. And together we make a great team.
Now, not just a good business team, you guys are married as well. And you're both from this area, right?
Yes. North of here, so small towns, Black Creek is where my home roots are, and Jason's from Bondwell.
Yes, and we do have a 1.5-year-old at home, and she is carrying 2 twin babies right now.
Whew. So things are about to get a whole lot busier in the near future.
Well, we did open our first store while she was carrying.
Yeah, I was 7 months pregnant when we opened Happy Trails, our very first store. Yeah.
That seems like a good time to do things. You're like, I don't know a lot going on right now, so let's go ahead and focus in on this. So, so tell the story about, like, where did you first hear about CBD? Like, you guys, I mean, were you were doing well respectively in your careers? I mean, you were kind of on the path to just keep climbing, just keep earning, just keep doing kind of the, quote unquote normal thing for a lot of people, and just moving up that corporate ladder and doing that. At what point, who came to who and said, hey, this isn't what I want to do?
Well, it was one of those things where we kind of had like one of those serious conversations, and you get frustrated sometimes just with your normal everyday work. And I asked Kayla, I'm like, what do you want to do? If you could do anything that you wanted to do, what would you want to do? And she's like, I just want to help people. And I said, well, we can't volunteer.
We can't afford you to do charity work for the rest of your life, is what he said. And this was a pretty emotional time in my life, in both of our lives, because I had left corporate America and really had jumped out onto my own entrepreneurial path, essentially became a digital marketing freelancer. And it was very apparent that my vision wasn't coming true. I just wasn't making it happen. And so Jason really came home and he had this sit down with me and he was like, okay, what is it that you want to do? And when I really looked deep inside, that was my answer. And I know it sounds naive and silly, but that's what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to help people, and that's what was going to fulfill me.
Okay. So then we take that so now you're running your freelance marketing company, and Jason, you're in media sales currently at the time, right? And you want to help people and you want to figure this out. When did CBD, when did that come into the conversation at all?
So it really didn't start, it was a couple months down the line from this conversation, but prior to this, so this was early 2017, we're talking. Really my introduction to CBD started in 2015 when I was diagnosed with a rare disorder called sphincter of the OD dysfunction. Jason and I had attended Freighter Medical Center for about 6 months trying to get a solution and a recommendation on how to fix myself. I think at my lowest, I was 112 pounds. I'm 5'8", so kind of looked like I came out of the Holocaust.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the recommendation from my GI specialist, who was top notch for this specific condition and procedure that he was recommending, was surgery. And so at that point in time, I even remember Jason, because this is about a year into being diagnosed. But I remember Jason asking the doctor, well, what do you think about medical marijuana? And his answer was something to the tune of, it will fix the symptoms for a short amount of time, and then it's not a cure-all. So at that point in time, the recommendation was to go ahead and cut my sphincter that was on top of my esophagus, and that was going to fix me. Well, I don't remember all the stats, but essentially we decided that wasn't the route. Like 80% of patients would get pancreatitis, even though my GI specialist, assured me that he was the best of the best and was going to do everything that he could to prevent that from happening. Well, then like 30% of people who get pancreatitis die. And so at that point, Jason and I just both said, you know what? We appreciate you and what you do, but this isn't our answer, and we're going to start looking elsewhere.
See, you're talking about some scary stats here. I mean, when you really get into it, I mean, the medical community, the traditional, I guess I'll call it the traditional medical community. I mean, obviously they can do what they can do, but when you start talking about stats like that, I mean,
it's scary.
Yeah, it's super scary.
I was 27 years old at the time. So, I mean, I'm young. I'm supposed to be healthy and fit, and to have to make life decisions like that, that's not supposed to be life, right?
Right. So then where did it go from there?
So at that time, Jason actually recommended I look into medical marijuana. I was completely naive at that point in my life, and I said, absolutely not. I had, of course, dabbled in college and even in high school, had very bad experiences with this plant. And then also through my own upbringing, had witnessed some family addiction that just left a negative tone and taste in my mouth. So I was working in corporate America. I was working on a rebranding project out of Longmont. I started looking into Longmont, Colorado, that is. I started looking into some of the research behind medical cannabis and realized that there's some science behind it. So eventually I kind of became a cannabis refugee, and the fact that Jason and I were making multiple trips to Colorado to, bring back a ton of medicine that was going to help me. But within about 2 weeks of using a CBD product, I had improved almost 50%. And then in 6 months, I had essentially cured myself, and food was no longer an enemy for me. And that's unfortunately the life that I was living at that point.
Wow. So, and this is with no other changes whatsoever other than just the introduction of the CBD product that, I mean, to be clear, you you were pretty much completely against when you first heard about it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Jason, what did you think during this entire process of like going from perfectly healthy wife, I mean, seemingly have kind of like the dream life, getting ready to go on and just get, live the rest of your late 20s and into your 30s and start a family and do all of this, into just everything's upside down?
Well, when you see your wife curled up on the floor crying because her stomach hurt because she can't digest food properly, I mean, there's nothing that's not on the table to try to, figure this out to help a cure. And when you go one route and you're not getting other answers, why wouldn't you look at the other route and consider it? And then when you start to see things progress in a positive manner, like, let's look into this more, because there's more about this. There's this huge stigma about the whole cannabis or hemp plant that has just been brainwashed into to think that it's not right or it's illegal or anything like that. For us,
That's a drug.
Yeah, that it's a drug. And for us to even, not to fast forward here, but like to even try to get credit card processing to sell a legal hemp derived product, and they think that we're selling illegal drugs, it's just backwards when you think about it.
And that's trying to get like here, right? Like, I mean, like when you're trying to, like, in the community that you've grown up in, that you've been business leaders in, that people in, all of a sudden acceptance of this stuff as you start to, and I know we'll get to this part, but I'm really I'm interested to hear about how that process went. So after 6 months now, you've essentially cured yourself. I mean, you know, this medicine has helped you bring you to a point of freedom and a normal life again. And is that when you two said, we need to get this out to people?
No.
It wasn't, CBD wasn't legal in Wisconsin during this time.
We were also so far away from it becoming legal in the state of Wisconsin that sharing this with our friends and family wasn't realistic. So it was very much a hush hush. I couldn't tell people how I was healing myself. I couldn't share it, even being nervous with close friends because of the stigma that surrounds cannabis itself, because it's been prohibited for 70 plus years. It just wasn't realistic. But if we fast forward back to 2017, where I was in the midst of trying to get this entrepreneurial career off the ground, and it really wasn't working. Jason comes home, he has this conversation with me. What is it that you want to do in life? It was a couple months later. He's out on a sales call, and he calls me at home, and I answer, and he's like, I've got it. And with such conviction, he tells me that we're going to open up a smoke shop. And I'm like, what?
Isn't that just like every wife's dream, that you just wait for that phone call to pour in someday? Like, as you were having your first dance at your wedding, you were just picturing that moment when he'd call you and say, hey, I have it. It's a smoke shop. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it started because he just left a sales call. One of his clients was a smoke shop, and they were selling CBD. And of course, at this time, we knew how much CBD was a part of my healing journey. So he said, don't worry about it. I'm going to tell you all about it when we get home. But here in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm a digital marketer. Sure, I can sell some incense and pipes online. No big deal. But he, of course, had something completely different in mind. And he was able to connect this is how we can help people share your story. So when he came home, he explained everything. And we kind of went to work. We started doing our research. How are they doing this? How is it legal in the state of Wisconsin? And what kind of licensing do we need to start our own little, one-man shop to provide a therapeutic product? And it started out as a smoke shop, but an idea behind a smoke shop. But every time we tried to bring in a product into our portfolio, like, nothing against smoke shops. I love incense. I love Bob Marley. It didn't make sense with our mission. And our mission is to educate customers on the potential health benefits of hemp-derived CBD. So we attended a couple trade shows.
Yeah, and it kind of came together. You can have one just huge idea, but then when you kind of reel it in and kind of think about what you actually want to do, it stems from that outrageous thought. But when you can actually kind of pull it together and be like, okay, let's be Wisconsin's first CBD exclusive retail store. Let's give an 80-year-old woman who's in pain an opportunity to walk into a clean environment, not having to reach over glass pipes to ask for their CBD that they can get relief from.
Yeah, and ultimately, at the end of the day, just be really comfortable with the education that's being provided behind the counter, because there's good CBD, and then there's some really bad stuff out there that is not therapeutic. And we can talk about formulating CBD and how to create a good product all day long. We really can. But that's what we pride ourselves on, in making sure that we don't lower those standards so that, pesticides or heavy metals are going into our customers' bodies, because ultimately everybody who we see is typically trying to heal from some sort of ailment, whether it be anxiety or, seizures, cancer, psoriasis. The list is pretty endless.
So this conversation, this epiphany from Jason, if you will, I mean, this was in 2017, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So from that phone call to the doors open of first store, how much time was that?
It was literally, we made the decision because basically we filed for our tax. We're going to take our savings and our tax return and we're going to try to open a business. That's all we had.
The American dream.
So we started this whole venture, attended our first trade show, let's say in January of 18.
Yeah.
We were trying to open by April of 18, got pushed back to late May, June 1st, if you would say, in 2018. So it took us about 4.5 months to take this, do some research, figure it out per se.
Yeah. And so we were planning for April to be open. And I still remember we had pretty much like our life's investment into this one little storefront downtown Kaukauna, which was 5 miles from our house. It made absolute sense. DATCAP, one of our state regulatory agencies, comes out and actually issues a memo saying, well, I know Scott Walker signed this bill in 2017 legalizing hemp in the state of Wisconsin, but in fact, CBD is still illegal. And so we're about a month away from opening, and we're living in complete fear. Like, do we have illegal products in our store? What are we doing? Jason, his family comes from law enforcement, so he's making all these phone calls to try and figure out if we can actually open our doors or not.
And what was the consensus? Were most people just kind of saying, go for it?
People were saying go for it, but I think the state was a little confused on what the law actually meant. We were confident in a way, like we knew what the law meant, but it was contradicting info that they put out. And
yeah, this one memo.
Yeah, and within 2 weeks it did correct itself, but it was kind of a scare because like we knew what we were doing was correct, but we didn't know how they were going to enforce it, and if they could enforce it for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And
at the same time, we're following what's happening in other states. Our neighboring state, Iowa, their CBD stores were being raided, and their products were being taken. So, I mean, there was this theoretical fear, but a very real one.
Wow. And it's very real. I mean, even in what I do for a living in the real estate, we have contracts that are drafted by state attorneys and that we obviously use in the transaction process. But even I'm running into it right now, as a matter of fact, with a contract that we interpret one way, but the other side interprets it a different way. Neither one is correct necessarily, but there's really we have to wait for more guidance in order to get that. So when you have something that's kind of ambiguous and when you have new laws or new rules and when you have what's obviously a polarizing, at the time anyway, and still is, I think, a polarizing product or topic. And you have some people that are like, well, of course it's interpreted, of course, let them sell it. And then you have other people that are doing everything they can to hold on to the last little bit of strength that they could to shut it down. I mean, it's got to be fearful, especially, I mean, you have everything at it right now, and you are 7 months pregnant at the time, and your life savings is there. And so I completely get it. So store number one, little store in Kaukauna, opens June 1st. So what is the reception from people between, like, when you first, because I remember this from, you know, like I said, we've known each other for a long time. So I watched this process unfold, and I remember from my perspective going like, this is rad. Like, this is super cool to just see two people go for it. I mean, there are so many people that are watching right now that have had these dreams of, I want to help people, or I want to have this business, or I have this product, or this vision that I want to put out there. And a lot of people just never take that chance. They never do it. So now here you guys are doing it. I'm following along, as are hundreds, thousands of your friends that are just sitting here watching the updates on Facebook, watching the Facebook page get released, watching this stuff. And it's funny, when I talked to you last week about setting this up, it was almost alarming for me to hear kind of the silence on the other end of the phone, as you two kind of realized that for the very first time, you kind of realized that people were watching this, and you really had never thought of that before. So what was the reception at the time from people gearing up to opening and right after opening?
Yeah. So, I mean, the immediate reception, especially from our local community, was very positive. We're so thankful that you're here. We've believed in this forever. But it really didn't hit us until probably the second or third month into business that everything in life had just changed for us. And this was now going to have to really be our primary everything in life. We started to get repeat customers, and the stories that we were getting were nothing short of amazing. So I was 32 weeks pregnant. I had an abruption where my placenta started tearing away from the wall of my uterus. Was immediately put on bed rest. And at that point in time, we really had thought this was going to be a one-man shop. Maybe we'd hire a second employee, and then this was going to be a nice little gig down the road from our house. But I would probably say 3 months in is then where we kind of looked at each other like, how do you come on board now full-time? Because we need you. And we're helping so many people that even though it was so difficult for him to leave his position at that time, because the company that he worked for, we loved and we still love, and they were very good to us. It was a very difficult decision, but
well, what we did first was, that wasn't going to be, like we can hire somebody.
Yeah.
So, we've never hired anybody in our life before. Now we got to figure out payroll. How does it work? How do we find somebody that we can trust to have our standards when we're not at the store? Because our face is on the store no matter when we're here, when we're not here. So it was a very nerve-wracking first hire when we hired a couple people, because, you kind of have that control freak kind of come out, and you're like, well, you should have said it this way. But everyone's their own person, and you just kind of have to let them, if they know how the plant works, if they know how it can help, you have to trust that they're going to convey it in a positive manner and educate the person across the other side of the counter. So you do have to, be careful when you do. We're not just hiring somebody to run a register.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff comes behind it. So, our goal was, we're very fortunate to hire a few good people that CBD has changed their life right away. So we were able to do that, and I was able to help her through her pregnancy, through the last 4 weeks, help with a brand new baby, and have somebody else kind of take over the store.
Yeah, we've been very blessed with an incredible amount of talent. So we found CBD accidentally and from my own recovery story. But a lot of the people that we employ and have found have been studying cannabis their entire lives and have been rallying for it, and working with local politicians to legalize it. And so our background is very limited compared to the rest of our teams. We've been very blessed in that manner.
So I think in speaking with you last week, I think you even said you have an RN like on staff or something, or somebody who was in nursing or something, right?
Yeah.
She's currently, her full-time job is, she's an RN.
Wow.
Her part-time job is Happy Trails, and she does a fantastic job. She's a great resource for us, for our team, for our customers. So she, not only her, but our team is so very well-rounded and collected. We love our team.
So now I love hearing that, because that's what it's all about. And that's what business owners eventually find out, is the way to grow is to find the best people to surround yourself with. And that's really where it's at. I mean, you may possess all the talent or the best ideas or whatever in the world, but you're going to realize very quickly that until you surround yourself with the right people and put your trust in them to carry on your vision, then that's where true explosive growth happens. And speaking of explosive growth, let's talk about that. So now June 1st, 2018, we're not even, this hasn't even been 2 years at this point right now. How many employees do you have currently?
2.
Before COVID?
Well, yeah, before.
Right now, I'm sorry, yeah.
Right now our team is collectively, we employ 16 people.
So 16 people. So almost one a month, essentially. You've given a person a job every month since you started this. And how many stores?
5.
5 total stores, plus an online store as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
Distribution center as well.
Okay, wow. So this went from little storefront in downtown Kaukauna as a side hustle to a baby empire, if you will, like in the snap of a finger here. You had to pivot, I'm guessing pretty quickly, to really realize that, like, hey, we knew this was going to help, but we probably didn't anticipate it was going to be as big as it is. And
Yeah.
it's taking off. And now I'm sure at this point you're starting to see other people also realize your success that maybe don't have the best of intentions and want to also capitalize on some stuff. So we have 5 stores. Where are the stores located?
We have 2 in Appleton, 1 on the east side and the west side. We have 1 in Shawano, 1 in Green Bay, and then 1 in Chicago.
Okay. So, I mean, you're all over Northeast Wisconsin, and then obviously in Chicago, and that's in Chicago, like Chicago proper.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our address is Chicago. We're included in this. It's this village within the city. It's this incredibly cute area with lots of restaurants, lots of retail shops. It's called Roscoe Village.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now here you are at this point with this level of reach, we'll call it. How did you navigate? Now everybody's heard about CBD at this point because either from seeing professional stores like yours and the billboards and people, or having friends that have used it and it's helped. Still a polarizing topic. And I think the biggest reason is just misinformation and miseducation about it. What's different? What's different from if I go into Joe Blow's gas station and they're selling it across the counter right there, and I go into Happy Trails? First off, what is it? What is it, and what is the difference between those two?
Well, we can't tell you what the difference is because we don't know what Family Video is selling. We don't know what gas stations are selling. We don't know what smoke shops are selling all the time. The main difference is the experience, I would say, that you would get when you walk into a Happy Trails versus another store that maybe it's a nutrition store and they sell vitamins, but now they have CBD because people are buying it. So
you really do get a little like mini education when you come into a Happy Trails.
Well, and I would say that's exactly it. The main difference probably is that, you don't know what they're selling, but you do know what you're selling.
correct.
And so what is the product and what is it that you're selling? So let's just say, why did you pick the products that you picked, and why is what's in your store in your store?
Purity and potency.
Okay.
Are probably the two main factors. Cannabis is a very porous plant. So anything that's in the soil, it will absorb. And there's, natural things like lead that can be absorbed through the soil. And then a lot of farmers cultivating hemp are not necessarily organic. Now with it being a porous plant again, using pesticides, all of those pesticides are going to come into the plant and not be removed throughout the process. So when we look at bringing any product into our store, we look at it from a therapeutic potential. How is it going to benefit our body or our pet's body as a whole? And is there anything in it that is bad that we don't want to put in our body? And if you look at, I would say probably 90% of the products that are out there, you will find something that's not, that you should not be putting into your body on a regular basis.
Something that if you read it on the label, you'd be like, I don't like where this is headed. So
There's a lot of fillers in products, and if you're taking a natural product for health reasons, basically, you don't want the less ingredients, the better. You don't want a filler in there. You don't want artificial flavoring. You want natural flavoring. If there's flavor to be,
right.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different products, but first and foremost, the potency and purity of our product, we think that separates us. But then you can actually look at the selection of products as well.
Yeah.
So CBD then, obviously you're selling the highest grade that you can find. And we'll get more into that in a second. Tell me, what is CBD? Like for somebody who just has all they know is there is some sort of an oil out there that has the initials CBD. What is it? Who is it for? Who should come in and get educated?
Yeah. So CBD is a compound. It is a cannabinoid. So there's over 100 different cannabinoids that we've discovered to date.
Cannabidiol is how you say it.
Yeah.
CBD is short for cannabidiol.
CBD is
cannabidiol. Okay, now I just want you to realize that right now there's probably thousands of people that have just watched that moment right there and went, "Oh, that's how you say it," because we've been trying to figure it out for like 3 years and nobody's had any idea. So, all right, so now we know the proper pronunciation.
You can list all the cannabinoids and it sounds like you're listing TV stations. CBG, CBD, CBDV. Just because it's so much easier to say than the actual, long word of it.
So one more time, the correct word is?
Cannabidiol.
Cannabidiol. Okay, and what is that?
It is a compound found in the cannabis plant. It is a cannabinoid. THC is probably the most prevalent, or the most, we're most familiar with that cannabinoid. We're most familiar with its effects of creating that high. CBD doesn't create the effects of that high, but there's again over 100 different cannabinoids within the cannabis plant. So CBD is really just the cusp of what is inside of this plant, and that's what we've started to discover probably over the last year. CBG is kind of the unsung mother cannabinoid that really has potentials even beyond CBD. So most of our research is now centered around the evolving cannabinoids within the cannabis plant.
So, and when you talk about these, the CBD, CBG, these compounds, they have healing properties. Now, you have to be, I'll call this out because I know that this is a thing. We've talked about this off the air, if you will, but like it's really hard for for people in your business to be able to explain the true health benefits, because there are certain rules. I mean, just to call out the elephant, I mean, there's a lot of rules about making claims and what it can do and what it can't do. And unfortunately, you know, you have the person selling the magic diet pill on TV for $39.99. That's ruined it for everybody that has a legitimate product that helps people, because that, you know, that guy wasn't being sincere, accurate, and was out to make a buck. And now you have something that could legitimately help somebody, but you're not allowed to make a make a statement. You can tell stories though, right? You can tell stories of how it's helped people.
Yeah, and you can share your stories, you can share your family's stories, you can share the customers' stories. What we share probably the most are reviews. If you go on our website or you go on Facebook or social media and you read those reviews, those are super important to us, because we tell those stories, because we can't make any claims. But you know, if you have somebody that comes in with anxiety, you can tell the story about the person who comes in once a month that doesn't have anxiety anymore, and they don't take any medication for anxiety anymore.
So what's the most common story that you hear for like somebody with anxiety? I think anxiety is a pretty common thing right now as we're all battling a quarantine and everything else. I think anxiety is really high. So like what is the most common result you hear about from stories from people that have never taken it before, have battled this thing, and now start to take the product?
Well, anxiety, pain, inflammation, anxiety are probably the top two things that people walk through the door for. Sleep is another big one.
Okay.
Yeah. And really from there, all we do is educate on how cannabinoids work within your body. And then the customer can make an informed decision as to what product is going to work best for them, because it's not just all CBD oil. You can take CBD in your coffee and your peanut butter and coconut oil in your, we have CBD super cider. I mean, it's really just dependent on what's going to work best for your lifestyle. I think the most amazing stories are when we see people behind the counter or across the counter who are physically debilitated by what's happening in their life. They're afraid to go outside. They're anxious about that visit. They're anxious about talking to you. And the next time you see them, they're a different person. And that's when you get that like, oh yeah, that's why we do this.
Wow. That's got to be super rewarding to take something that, I mean, from essentially illegal, not essentially, it was illegal in the state of Wisconsin, but you knew the health benefits of it to you personally. And you're like, we need to share this. And now here you are, not even 2 years later, you have 5 stores in 2 states. You have a distribution center, an online store. And I think you were mentioning, you also have like your own private label brand, right?
Yeah, we have 13 different SKUs, but you know, the thing that happened with us, and we can formulate our own products, but we were doing R&D over the counter. A lot of these companies that you see that pop up and like, hey, we're a new CBD brand, buy this one, we're the cheapest.
Yeah, we're all natural, organic.
But when you can actually do the R&D over the counter, you can formulate a better product. Not that you're selling a bad product, you're selling a really good product, but you're taking a really good product and you're making it better. So people that maybe have taken CBD oil and MCT oil and they say it didn't work for me, well, maybe you have absorption issues. So we developed a water-soluble product that you don't necessarily have to hold underneath your tongue. Water-soluble is meant, you use nanotechnology and you break down the particles so small that it bonds to your water cells. So you don't have to hold this underneath your tongue, or if you don't have a gallbladder, you already have probably absorption issues. So you need to have that conversation when someone comes in and be like, okay, do you take the medication like you normally should? Do you have absorption issues? Well, maybe a water-soluble product would work better for you. You don't have to hold it underneath your tongue. You can squirt it in your drink. You can squirt it in your mouth. You can swallow it. It's meant for immediate onset. We live in a very immediate onset world where people want instant gratification. So this has been our #1 selling product that we have developed on our own. Because when you have anxiety, you want a cure now. I shouldn't say cure, but you want relief right now. So with that being said, you can take some and you can feel the immediate onset.
So now let's fast forward to right now. So now you've worked, for these 2 years getting these open. You've developed all of this stuff. You've got these SKUs. You've done the R&D across the counter. You've helped thousands of people throughout all this stuff. You're employing people. Those people are experts. I mean, you know, all things considered, you're kind of looking at it, and anybody would look on from the outside in and go, boy, I mean, this is a snowball that has all the momentum rolling downhill right now. And then COVID-19 kicks in. So now this isn't unique to you guys. I mean, it's unique to a lot of people. Or I guess at that point, it's not even unique anymore. But how many of your storefronts are actually allowed to be open right now?
Zero.
Yeah. So you went from 5 doors open and repeat customers and people coming through to all of a sudden trying to figure out what are we going to do? How do we get the product to people that want relief, and how do we tell them about it? How do we, make sure that we can still make our mortgage payment? Because at the end of the day, you guys have 5 buildings, you have these employees that are counting on you right now, and you have a family. I mean, you have a family and about to be a bigger by 2. So what changes have you had to implement, and how can, as a community, watching through this, what will probably be about an hour-long thing to get to know you guys, and I think it's super awesome. Now, if people are sitting here going, well, great, this is awesome, and now I can't go to their store, what can they do?
Well, that's, we were forced to make decisions that we didn't want to make, really.
Yeah.
And, okay, let's help everybody collect unemployment. Let's figure out what grants or loans that we can apply for. But we still have an online store. You can still order from happytrailscbd.com. We still are employing a part-time person to come in and fill orders once a day and take phone orders, because, as easy as it sounds, order this online. Some people don't want to order it online. They still want to talk about the product. They still want to be guided to what's best for them, because.
And we still have new customers that have questions. And even though we did not meet the essential requirements by the state of Wisconsin, although quite a few of our customers do feel differently, we're doing everything we can in our power to be there for them, whether it's, via messaging on social media, direct messaging, having those digital connections and touch points, and then just over the phone too, because we have quite a few older customers. My mom is 68 years old, and she successfully went off 3 medications, 80 milligrams of Vyvanse. She had a stroke back in 2014. She was suffering from some really traumatic brain issues, and also suffered from ADHD, 2 high blood pressure medications that caused cancer, that she was no longer happy being on anymore. And so we have customers who have stories like that, and we are essential to them. So this put us in a really scary predicament, as well as many other small businesses across the country.
So I want to share real quick. I'm going to share my screen because I have your website pulled up here. And so we're going to go, just find Google Chrome. Here we go. We're all learning Zoom at the same time, I think, for a lot of people. All right. So you guys see it on that end?
We do.
Okay, perfect. So this is what pops up right now, and it starts with I'm guessing an email newsletter that'll come out, and obviously this will go into your database to be able to help people and get 10% off their first online purchase if they put this stuff in here. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super cool. Now this is a beautiful, beautiful website, very well put together. And what I want people to see is how easy this is. To navigate and look at. Now, the testimonials you're talking about down here, I mean, these are just
fun to read. I mean, it's you want to get goosebumps, read a few of those, you'll get into them, but they're just fun to read because those tell our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
And these are absolute real people around here using your products that have experienced amazing results, right?
Yep.
For themselves. So, yeah, I mean, let the stories talk for themselves. I think it's a super interesting product or product line. So in here, they can go in any, so if somebody's new, if they're like new to this and going, hey, what should I check out? Where should they go on this website?
Well, the first thing that you should know when you're purchasing a CBD product is there's a CBD isolate product that contains 0% THC. And then there's a full spectrum product that contains 0.3 or less THC, which is within the legal limit. So if you're somebody who works for the DOT, or you're worried about a drug test, you might want to lean more on an isolate product. If you're not too concerned about the 0.3, which is very, very minimal THC, we'd lean you towards more of a full spectrum product.
Yeah.
So that's these two different products right here.
Yep. There's two main spots. I mean, if you know how you want to consume CBD and what route, and you have an idea of if you want full spectrum or an isolate product, then definitely start at that top header bar. Start shopping and then start reading about the products. If you want to educate yourself about CBD, scroll down to the bottom of our website and check out our blog, because we try to post at least once a month. Keep going, Chugs. Brett.
There we go. It's all good. Everybody knows me as both. There we go. Blog. I got it right here. So, go ahead.
We post articles once to twice a month, and starting from the basics, CBD 101, the science behind cannabinoid therapy. Those are two that, pop out in my mind, but that would be a great learning point, a great starting point to start learning about CBD.
This is something I want to learn more about too, eventually, because I think it's really interesting. This is not just a human solution here.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, pets, same things for humans. Pets have anxiety. Pets have pain and inflammation. Pets have an endocannabinoid system, and so do you. So it works very similar. They absorb it much faster at a much more rapid rate, so they don't need as much as a human sometimes. But it all depends on the ailment, on what you're trying to get relief from, or what your pet's trying to get relief from. And that's why the thing with CBD is to start slow, start small and increase as needed, because everybody's body is different than each other's. So I might need way less than Kayla. Hormones are another thing too. So everyone's different. We can guide you to where we can recommend where you start, but you need to know that you need to increase as needed, and you need to be consistent. You need to find it. If you're not going to take a tincture that drops underneath your tongue or in your mouth every day, we need to find a different solution for you. Maybe a capsule is better.
Yeah. But once we brought CBD into our own life, our firstborn, he's 5 years old, furry, yellow, and his name is Jax. And it made sense to, he was suffering from anxiety surrounding fireworks and severe thunderstorms. He would run into the bathtub and just sit there quivering, shaking. And you never want to see your furry family member, in devastating situations like that, especially when you can't help them, you can't communicate with them. So it made sense for us to incorporate CBD into his lifestyle, and quickly saw results. And that's pretty much what allowed us to expand our pet product portfolio.
That's so cool. So at the top of the website, I think people saw, and you can go there. It's just happytrailscbd.com.
Yeah, you can use Happy 10 as a 10% off promo code.
Awesome. And free shipping right now, I think it said until April 30th.
Yes. Amongst this Rona crisis that we're in, we want to be able to supply free shipping for as long as we can. So
storefronts aren't open, but Jason and Kayla, they are, I've known them, like I said, for years and years, and they have supported our community around here, and their friends and family, and it's, they're just great people. And to be able to give back to them with an amazing product and be able to find it is great. And I think at the top of there, it said, had a phone number, had an email for questions, I'm assuming. Also had the social media links. I popped on the Facebook, as people saw, for a little bit, but Instagram was there, LinkedIn was there. Go check this stuff out. It's, what do you have to say, I guess, for the people that are still like, I think you've cleared up a lot of questions for people. when you run in, what is the most common question that you get asked or that your staff members get asked inside the store or out on the streets or as they talk to family or friends? Like, what's the most common misconception?
That it's instant, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, what you need to learn is if you're going to give something like this an opportunity, you need to give it all of the opportunity, and you need to be consistent. And if you're feeling like it's not working like it should, you need to reach back out to us, and we need to have a reset on information, because maybe that specific product that you tried, a year ago or 6 months ago that you didn't think it worked, maybe you needed a water soluble product. Maybe you needed a CBG product. Maybe you needed a CBN product. Maybe, you just need to have the conversation. You tell your story, and you need to keep us in tune, like throughout the process.
So, I mean, it's no different really than any other therapy. I mean, if you're going to a massage therapist, if you're going to a chiropractor, if you're going to a nutritionist or some sort of a holistic healing specialist or anything like that, I mean, they're going to make recommendations based off what you're telling them, but as long as they're only as good as the information you're giving back to them to be able to help you further.
Right. People, if they're taking it for pain and inflammation, they don't understand how well it's working until they run out. And then they're like, I didn't really think it was working, but I kept taking it because I didn't know. But now I'm back. Can I open this right now after I purchase it? So, I mean, everyone's different. You just need to find what's going to work in your everyday routine and what you're going to take consistently.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's at the most basic foundation of cannabinoid therapy. You think about the lack of sunlight we get in the state of Wisconsin. We're all vitamin D deficient.
Yeah, faux show.
But you can't take one vitamin D supplement and then be cured and be sufficient. You really have to incorporate it into your lifestyle and make it an everyday regimen so that you have the sufficient amount of vitamin D in your body. Same thing goes for CBD. Endocannabinoid deficiency is a real thing that we suffer from. And so many of us in Wisconsin have it.
Well, Jason, Kayla, I think you guys are fantastic. I think what you've done is remarkable, and I hope you know that. And being where you are right now, I think it's super cool that you guys take the risk to be able to not only go out there and follow your dreams and to start businesses and to do things like that and to really be the backbone of local economies like this, but also when it's something so controversial, but you feel so compelled to help people. And that was your guiding light the entire time, was not dollars and cents. And it wasn't, we're going to be the biggest, be the wealthiest, whatever. It's, we're going to help the most amount of people we can help. And knowing that helping people, the rewards come on the backside of that. And you're focusing on the right things. And I think it's awesome. I love your story. I want to follow it. I want everybody else to follow it too. And please make sure you check out their products. And thank you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out to hang out with me.
Absolutely. It was fun.
Thank you.
So good to see you.